Hello, everybody, or should I say, our mateys. Welcome to another episode of iNewz. I have just returned from Colombia, which was really awesome and fantastic. And today, we're going to be delving into, and I say this because the set reminds me of Colombia, just so you guys know. But we're going to be talking to Steven Stricker, who is representing the Black Powder Seas pirate group. Well, they're actually, well, I don't know. They might be a pirate group, but he's dressed like a pirate, so maybe. But let me introduce first my co-host, Wolfie Hartnell. Say hi, Wolfie.
Hey, folks. Let me wave my gun around just to prove I'm a tiny pirate. There we go. Hi.
You know, the waving of the gun could mean so many things. Just no shooting on set. We don't want any dead dinkies. Okay, no dead dinkies.
Can I shoot Lexi? Please let me shoot Lexi.
Wait, you can shoot Lexi. Yeah, okay, you can shoot Lexi. Cool. Lexi's all good. You can shoot him. And now I'll introduce Steven Stricker from the Black Powder Seas. Hey, Steven, how are you?
Doing very good. An honor to be here today. Thank you.
Have your boots dried out yet?
No, I'm still squishing around from yesterday's battle, but we'll be back for revenge on Friday.
Well, don't you have like an extra pair of boots?
You'd have to talk to the supply sergeant about that.
Well, I'm thinking that might be bad for my health.
I don't know that I've worn these ones sufficiently to warrant a reissue.
All right.
I wonder if the availability of clothes is linked to your aptitude at sinking other ships rather than being sunk yourself. Maybe you get 3 pairs of boots if you don't get sunk very often.
Well, I will tell you, potentially your rank and responsibilities and those really cool epaulets that we get to wear are affected by your success and or lack of success in battles.
Well, that sounds like a great place to just dive in and find out, right?
There's a notion of promotions and stuff.
Yes. Wait. Let's zoom in. Okay, so I'm looking at your shoulders here. Epaulets. Okay, so what does that mean up there? Tell me.
In this particular case, the stripes and the fact that there's 2 indicate my rank as captain, and there are lieutenant captains. There's and just the initial enlisted, if you would, the ensign, who would only have 1 epaulet with 1 stripe on it. So, but otherwise, the uniform is as issued.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about Black. I get lots of pictures, and I know you guys do battles, and you do all of this fun stuff. So tell the audience a little bit about what Black Powder Seas does. I was over at the regions earlier, so yeah.
All right. Yeah, and I guess we could kind of start talking just a bit about what would maybe be characterized as a little bit more or less strict or more free-form role play. We have the concept of naval personnel who would be enlisted to participate as officers in the Navy. And then, of course, we have what most folks affectionately call pirates. But I've learned over time that many prefer to be referred to as merchants of free trade. It kind of keeps the heat off of them from the Royal Navy if they
because that was actually
that's a useful phrase, isn't it? Free trade.
Right. And even though the role play is a bit more freeform, maybe not so strict as others, there's still the personalities. If you would, we gather at the dinner table or whatnot after a battle, and the pirates are throwing around food and spitting on my boots and stuff like that. And, of course, all of us well-cultured naval personnel are appalled at their behavior, things like that. But all in all, that's kind of, not so tightly adhered to, but fun as well, kind of an aspect.
They probably appalled by the fact that I ripped the sound out of the parrot next to me.
Well, it's a bit on the brutal side, but I'm not going to comment there. Yeah.
Vocal cords ripped out. That's what I did.
Well.
So okay, so you guys, so when now are you guys doing this like weekly, monthly? I know Rig sends me a ton of pictures and stuff. But do you guys? How often are you guys doing this? Do you have do you schedule the battles? I mean, how does that all work?
Question. Yes, we have regularly scheduled battles on Tuesdays and Fridays. And we meet at the dock at about sometime before 4 p.m. IW time, at which time, of course, your battle coordinator for that evening will be you'll know who that is. A lot of times it'll be either Trouble or Modi, sometimes myself, who will actually coordinate the battle. We generally concur with respect to what sort of scenario we want to run for each battle, whether it be a free-for-all where each ship pilot is against the others, or sometimes we'll do a versus. If we have enough naval personnel versus merchants of free trade, we might divide up amongst, Navy versus pirates. One of the more favorite ones seems to be these days the guys versus the gals, in which case they usually sink us pretty good and give us a good dose of the seawater, but that's okay.
I gotta love the females.
Yes. And then we kind of alluded to earlier, we have some special kind of battles occasionally, which will involve one person being the Kraken or Moby and try to sink the ships before we end up, hunting down the Moby or the Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that sounds cool.
Yeah, our job becomes a little bit more to work as a team. We've done other things too. For example, Tony has come up with a scenario. It's kind of on protect the flag. If you ever done paintball and you kind of have to protect your flags, that would be some target ships that your color you're trying to protect and things like that. But more succinctly, so we do Tuesdays and Friday battles organized at the 4 p.m. starting time frame. Also, you'll find people will do ad hoc battles a little bit earlier during the day. Many folks are in Europe and whatnot that are major participants. So you'll see ad hoc battles to participate in any time during the week. And we're always welcome to chat somebody up. If you happen to want to get out there and shoot at something besides the target ships, you can always message somebody via the group or personal and say, "Hey, y'all up for a little battle or not?" And most often to be accommodated, yes.
So now, if I understand correct, I was taking a look. The Blackwater Seas is actually a group, kind of like Magellan is a big group of region owners. And Blackwater Seas is kind of the same thing, is it not? If I'm thinking about this correctly, I mean, I know.
Correct.
Okay, so how many owners are involved in the actual Blackwater Seas group?
Well, I think what you'll see is now that we've moved a little bit, we've got what is the Continental Navy, and championed by Jennifer Law and Modi. That quad is now up and melded in nicely, I guess, if you would, with the work that Trouble has done, as well as if you look at the Duchess of Port Said, Melanie Oxford, her region is there as well. And most recently, Domre, who's also in the audience today, I see, he has a quad that is themed after the Barbary Coast.
Yeah, we just put that up, as a matter of fact.
It's a beautiful thing. In a sense, you may, from the outside say, well, why didn't they do one common theme? But on the other hand, what we have now is Europe, kind of represented by Holland looking terrain and buildings and things like that. Then you have the Barbary Coast over there in Domre's quad. And then, of course, what would be considered kind of the Caribbean seas and whatnot with respect to the Continental Navy quad and scenics. So
Very
it's
cool.
almost as if you're traveling from one location in the world to another as you go through a battle and move from quad to quad.
That's one of the things that I was hoping that we would eventually see in Worlds, because it's just such a cool idea to me that in the RP aspect, because if you want different locations, you got to build them and put them there. So I noticed that when I went over there was just this huge. It's when we do the regions and whatnot, because on the administrative side, I don't get that much time to be in the grid, so I don't necessarily know where everybody's going or what their function is going to be or what they're going to do with their region. So I just happened to notice when I got there, I was like, wow, there's just a ton of regions right here. And I know that Rig is always sending me the pics, from the battles that you guys do. So here's a question. So I've seen some of the boats and whatnot, and Trouble did that really great the boat that they're actually going to be presenting, and I forget because I read it on the forums. I know I posted on it.
Yes.
Yes, that's really cool. So how many different types of boats do you guys have? Do you actually have boats that represent each of those different districts? And I mean, are you trying to stay as historically correct to them, or
kind of a combination of in general 1800s warships and of course period accurate, as you had mentioned, most recently Trouble's creation that is still being scripted for navigability, if you would, is complete though with respect to the Batavia. That's a
That was it,
17th
yes.
century Dutch merchant ship that was very beautifully crafted.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and so Trouble has some really cool things going on, creating ships with the requisite SPD engine that we all use for battling. So we're all on an even keel, if you would, with respect to hit points and what damage can be done with each ship. Modi, of course, has an entire fleet of various ships, one of which was somewhat recently created. The H.M. William is also a historically accurate ship modeled off of a ship that was generally used to patrol the coast. So it's a little different in the case of its class, if you would. Now, I may want to bring that up as we're on this topic. So as folks craft ships, there are rules to engagement, so that it's all competitively fair. And we divide our ships into classes. We have the first or smallest class is a gunboat, which has only one cannon. And then you move up to light class ships, such as the H.M. William that I mentioned. And they have you may have 4 or 6 guns, not as many guns, but a fast, swift ship. And then we move up to mid class. You'll see, for example, the Stattenberg that Trouble has for sale, and most of the ships that Modi sells. There's a lot of mid class ships. Mid class is most often used in our battles. Our rules of engagement usually call for mid class. Occasionally light class or gunboat. And then on the top end, we have what you would consider the galleon class. And the reissue, if you would, of the new and improved L'Armada that Modi recently released through the loose cannon shipyards is an example of the very large class galleon class craft.
So you balance, I mean, you said about speed, you said about firepower, the number of cannons. So when you said you try and keep it fair, is it a case of a battle will only feature big ship versus big ship, or do you have a system?
Well, in most cases,
sort of
there are
work it out
some special, there are some special scenarios that call for something different than that, but I guess it's kind of twofold. We have the notion of things being equitable with respect to the engine being used.
Yep.
And the damage hit points that each ship would have, and how many cannons per class. The classes kind of tell you how many cannons they're going to have. From that respect, just from a build respect, and then from kind of a battling standpoint, especially for example, just a free for all. Everybody floating the same size of ship is usually more commensurate to a good challenge.
Yes.
So either all light class or all mid class.
I mean, there's some obvious kind of trade-off, isn't there? I mean, you've got a galleon. It's a huge amount of firepower, but probably steers like a cow compared to the smaller ships that are more agile.
And they will be swift, yes.
Yeah, so I could see in like a real world sense. So yeah, it's interesting to know how you balance those off in the different scenarios. Because
and one other interesting scenario is when we don't do it often, but it is fun. The galleons, even though they're beautifully crafted large craft, they don't seem to get as much float time. So every once in a while, we'll do a scenario where you'll have perhaps 4 or 5 sailors with light or mid-class ships, their choice of, against 1 galleon or 2 galleon, for example. The large ship has to sort of try to fend off the little ones picking at it.
Yes.
I just want to sort of jump in here and point out that, as Lexi just told me, that the L'Armada is behind us here, and I literally just cammed out to take a look at it. It's a beautifully well-built boat.
It is.
Absolutely gorgeous. And then Darren has a question for Stephen. Do the battle use a combat system meter for Avatar or the ships, or both?
At this time, we're really only using the combat meter, if you would, that's built into the ship. For the battles. There have been occasions in the past where folks would want to participate in swordplay and whatnot, in which case we would wear the HUD and whatnot to be able to kill each other.
Die, matey, die!
The notion of maybe boarding crafts and things like that can also be introduced into battle scenarios as well. I think you tend to find that most people, that becomes a lot, though. A lot of role play commitment that they may or may not be able to squeeze in the time that we have over the hour and a half or so or two maybe that we battle. But it's certainly doable and has been done. I certainly wouldn't mind, seeing it happen on occasion in the future too.
Very, very cool. So, by the way, because you guys are talking about some technical stuff there, it might have something more to do with Steven's headset, although I hear him just fine. So if he seems to be low to you, it could be,
Yeah, my apologies. The in-world versus the Discord that we're using to record here.
So. Yeah, so that could be a problem. I'm just saying. So I wanted to throw that out there because I see you guys talking about that.
Yep. Well, I love you all, but I got to make Bensky happy. So as long as Bensky's happy,
that's all that matters. Yeah.
that's
otherwise he throws tuna at us.
Yeah.
You guys think that I'm in charge of the show? You have no idea how much that cat runs things.
I'm watching.
Yep. No idea.
That's all.
So okay, so I think one of the cool things would be, especially for you guys, is I would love to see Bensky put in some battle footage for you guys. That way, we can incorporate it into the iNewz, because I think that would just be absolutely phenomenal. I mean,
fantastic. Yeah.
Pictures are one thing, but actual videos, those are like the bomb, pardon the pun, because you're using cannons and stuff.
Oh yes. Well, a number of videos have already been kind of posted up on various places that we could maybe gather, of course, and new footage always welcome too.
Yeah, new footage is always the best, right? I mean, come on, because everything is always. I'd love to see the fleet too, the entire fleet. I think that'd be really cool, and just
trying to sail in formation and all. Yes.
Oh, that would be fantastic, and just get some really nice close-ups of all those different ships and whatnot. I think that should definitely be arranged, because that's these boats. I'm always amazed when Rig sends me his pictures and whatnot, and sometimes we have them parked over at IDI, and I know I log into IDI and I'm like, oh, look at these boats. Oh yeah, and I'm always amazed at the detail that you guys put into them. They're absolutely gorgeous. And in real life, you really can't. I mean, they have some of these boats, like, you go down to New Orleans and whatnot, and you can walk on them, but it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? You don't really get to see them in action anymore because, obviously we don't want them to, get killed or sunk or whatever.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, we can just re-res at the shipyard, and it costs not too much on the natural resources in the virtual world, which is a beautiful thing to allow us to enjoy that, if you would, battling without really doing much damage.
Right? Yeah, definitely. So, okay, so Wolf, what kind of questions do you have? Because I covered my major topics that I wanted to ask, because, yeah. Oh, why the tall ship events are so spectacular. Oh, that was
yes.
Oh, can we ride the cannonballs?
Well, they're temp res, so good luck catching one. But
can you see shooting on a cannonball? Boom! Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. That a whole visual was just there a second ago. Okay, so back to you, Wolf.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, Nick had said about why the tall ships in real life are so fascinating for people. I moved a couple of months ago away from Falmouth, which is a coastal town in the UK, and the tall ships come into there every 4 years as they work their way around the world. And there's always huge crowds of people travel down there from all over the country to come and see them and to be able to, sort of get on them and sort of wander around. And they're amazing sort of recreations. I think it's something that sort of speaks to the soul. It's kind of a part of history that fascinates people. So I think that a group doing that kind of role play in virtual worlds has an amazing kind of ability to allow people to fulfill that kind of the love and the passion for an age of history which is almost mythical at this point. The pirate stories and stuff.
The artistry and the artisanship of the craftsmen.
Yes, exactly.
The craftspeople that created them. I mean, this is woodworking and art and woodworking.
It is.
And
I mean, it's amazing talent.
Across the ocean with just the nature powering you.
Yeah, I mean, I had an opportunity that I'm happy to say didn't appeal to me since one of the ships sunk, but I had an opportunity to actually go on a tall ships tour around the world. quite a few years ago, well over a decade now. And they were looking for people that wanted to volunteer and train up. And somebody referred it through to me and said, do you fancy doing that? And I thought, it's a little too far away from land for too long for me. And as I say, the lost one on the tour, but it was a close call. Because there is something, as you say, the artisan kind of work that goes into that, the amount that those things flex, all of that, just the kind of, as I say, almost mythical admiration for that. So I must admit, I haven't had time yet to get over and see you guys. But the other thing I wanted to mention, because I do want to get over there. Now I know what days you do the battles. I know which day to come over. So the other thing I wanted to mention was sort of information. You guys have a website on WordPress, I believe.
Yes.
Is that still sort of kept up to date? Is that a good resource for people to look at?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and Trouble also, the work that Trouble does maintaining the Black Powder Seas.
Yeah.
Information up there, yes. And
okay, I'm going to paste that into chat.
There it is. Yes.
And Bensky will make sure that comes up on the video, because there's some great images and there's details of all of the things that happen with this, including, this has always been a part that's fascinated me, the farming and trading part of the.
Actually, that's a very important thing we should probably mention too. We have Melanie Oxford, who is the Duchess of Port Celadon. And if you haven't been to that region, you really need to take a peek.
That's beautiful.
And see, some beautiful craft.
Yeah.
Just out there.
So it fascinated me that there's other areas of role play within that. As I say, the farming part of it. I was aware of that. Must have been a couple of years ago I first saw that going up.
And hunting for the rats, etc. Yes.
Yeah.
There's occasionally a bounty on them.
Yeah. And I thought that's really cool, because it's a lot of people who think, well, I don't know if I really want to do, sort of sea battles over and over. Although I would quite happily, but a lot of people, don't realize that there's other aspects to that, to the whole kind of community that goes way beyond just jumping on ships and going blasting the hell
way
out
beyond just the battling. Yes. And even though the battling role play may be a little bit more free form, when you start getting involved more in that sort of activity that you're discussing, you can immerse yourself more deeply.
Exactly. That's the thing that differentiates it from, a game or activity and the role-playing aspect. And that's what I love about it. It would be very easy just to make a game of, of sailing around, blowing each other up. But it's the role-play aspect of it, the development of the character, that I think is really rich.
Absolutely. And also encouraging each other, if you need lessons, gunnery lessons or sailing lessons, he does them regularly, and I know other folks do as well. And if you kind of want to look at the entry costs, if you would, or the commitment, the ships are very, very reasonably priced, especially considering the actual work that goes into them. And as far as your clothing and attire, whatnot, if you sign the here and here to enlist in the Navy, of course, your uniform comes with that commitment. But there's a lot of wonderful work and with respect to weaponry and clothing and hats and all that good stuff that you'll find. Freebies, free ships that you can demo out there. So in a sense, the entry cost is zero. You can come out and battle with one of the ships you can res with. The res are there, and wear the clothes that people have generously devoted to the freebies and things like that. And they're not the usual, if I could say it. Well, let's just say it, the freebies are their best work put forward, not the cheapos, so you really look nice.
Lexi has a question. Do you try to speak as the pirates and the Continental Navy would have done?
I think with respect to the role play and the conversations that go across, yes, absolutely. And we do kind of address each other, if being that I'm in the Navy, I would be a little bit more, if you would, formal
and polite,
and gentlemanly, if you would, and of course our merchants of free trade, they're free to act as hooligans as they should, and try to steal things off our ship when we're looking the other way, and then of course the Navy catches up with them, and anything that's in their cargo hold that doesn't have the official tax stamp of the crown, we had to hit them up for that little bit of revenue there too. So yes, we do kind of stick to that sort of personality traits when we do speak to each other.
Okay, I have a question that came to me as we were sitting here talking. Have you guys ever actually sat down and actually done like a recreation of a real life battle? Like for example, like the Spanish Armada going after England, let's say. I'm just throwing something out there. I mean, it's one of the most famous battles, but.
Yeah, I think one of the ways we've tried to simulate things like that, we have a practice ship that is called the Red Menace. The Red Menace is an unmanned ship that moves on its own and has many cannons that can reload much more frequently than would be normal on a SPD type of ship. And that is one of the neat creations I think Modi crafted some time ago. We'll place a few of those out there by the whaling village islands. And those are, in theory, in our rules of engagement, the Spanish Navy. And we all have to team up, all of us actual, playable character battlers. We team up to try to take out all of the Spanish Armada ships that are these Red Menaces. There may be half a dozen or so of them, depending on how many sailors are out to try to battle them. So that's been the closest we've really kind of come to that, but actually spawned some nice thoughts for future scenarios. We may
if you do something like that, that would be really fascinating to me to get like a recording of, which I'll hit on why after we're done with the interview.
And we'll have to get like the specifics. There's one galleon and a couple of light class defending so and so. Here comes whatever happened in history. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Because I've got some things rotating in my head lately. It's the new year, so obviously I'm working on the roadmap for 2018 and whatnot. So I've got a lot of different ideas just sort of flitting through my head on what I want to do and where I want to head, especially with the advertising and whatnot. And that's it's one of those things that there's multiple uses for something like that, and I'm always on the lookout for something like that. I know everybody thinks that IDI is crazy because it's Jackson Square, but there's a path that I'm trying to follow here. So that would be really, really cool. So if you guys ever do something like that, I really would be interested in knowing that you guys are doing it, and maybe bugging Bensky and seeing, can we get this on film for something like that? I think that'd be very cool.
Yeah, we've talked in previous shows about iNewz really being with the scripting engine having been rewritten from scratch, and with so much of the platform having been improved from the original starting point, that iNewz has a huge potential as a platform for developing things.
I've sailed in a lot of grids, and I have to say there's nothing smoother or more reliable than this grid right here.
No,
you'll probably find people flocking from, if you would, the big city grid here to sail.
Yes,
they're tired of wearing half of their ship, and
exactly. That's the thing. I mean, it's the allocation of the straits and the ocean. As water's always been a big part of iNewz.
Oh, I gotta leave. Tony's here. I'm not happy with him, man.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Tony, you're in trouble.
It was really Ami's fault, actually.
Right.
Tony's a good guy, but
What did Ami run in between your feet? I mean, I'm just curious. What did Ami do?
Aminat is such a.
She was gunnery on Tony's craft, the second battle of 2 yesterday, and it was a veritable terror on the high seas. And I think I was the first to receive said punishment.
Oh my!
Yeah,
I would never have guessed that about Ami. Never would have guessed
brutal.
Her as a troublemaker?
That's
not difficult to guess.
No, very focused, very well aimed gunnery.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it was just horribly brutal.
Yep.
Wow! So you got smacked around by little Ami. By little Ami.
Dickie's roll. Man. It was possum.
That actually answered that.
Possum. Yep,
that actually answered one of the questions I was going to ask, which is obviously I'm tiny today as a tiny pirate. Whether the tinies and the jinkies and sort of non-human avatars get to participate freely.
Oh, absolutely. And you may have noticed if you haven't seen, there's a barrel we have for dinky-sized pilots of the craft. So the captain can stand up right at the height of the tiller.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Yep, rabid pink pirates standing on barrels of rum.
I love it. I really do. Well, we need to put that in the video
my voice
too.
again on. Oh, there we go. I'm back there. So that's good. Every once in a while, my headset likes to just reset for some reason these days. I don't know.
Oh,
I know, right?
Well,
I need to shoot a cannon at it.
And the unorganizedness of a free for all, that's a great type of battle scenario. But all the other scenarios give us other challenges. There's basic sailing skills that you're going to learn. A lot of people like to start out not having to sail and gun at the same time.
Yes,
there's a lot going on, So they'll be gunnery and learn the gunnery aspect while somebody else pilots, which is good. And when we really get good in certain scenarios, like the battle races, or as we've done over and around IDI for some of the celebrations during Fleet Day, we'll sail in formation. And those are things that you should practice as a group or as a few people, whoever wants to get together. There are 3, kind of specific formations if you wanted to look at the history of it. Most typically a line ahead formation, which is everybody following one after the other.
Yeah.
And don't laugh. The next formation they call line abreast, which would be stretching, side to side, one next to each other. Don't shoot each other from the side. And then line of bearing, which is sort of a slash mark, backslash or forward slash. You're kind of at an angle coming as a group. So we've done that when we do verses and things like that. Those are things for all good pirates to aspire to, and naval captains as well. Learn your sailing skills and gunnery skills, but even more importantly, things you can't do individually, which we would do as a team, learning how to sail in formation, etc. Work as a team, whether it be against the flags like we did in it was like paintball scenario or versus battle. Those are all fantastic opportunities to improve your skills, and quite honestly, what kind of keeps you a little on edge, the excitement level and the adrenaline. You're trying to do all these things all at once. So I would encourage anybody, if and when you get involved, don't be overwhelmed. Just work one aspect at a time. Don't feel obligated that you have to do everything all at once, because it's a bit of a challenge on the sensory aspect.
So there's Modi was just saying, don't forget Fleet Day. So explain what Fleet Day is. I know what Fleet Day is, but explain Fleet Day for everybody.
Our yearly celebration of lovers of seafaring folk, whether battling types or otherwise casual pleasure craft, any age of or era of history. We try to get together once a year for an event which consists of folks being able to show off their creations of nautical wares and ships as well, all in one nice little location. And we showcase that with not only some fantastic entertainment via DJs and live performers, but we also do demos. People can hop on a craft and sail along as we do the sail by around IDI, and we also will stage a few battles, 2 or 3 battles during the day, so they can participate perhaps for the first time as a gunner or a pilot if they would care to do. Yes, and there's always a reser out there for a ship that you can pilot on your own without a purchase required if you're so inclined to do so. So it's a nice thing that a number of people pitch in to put together each and every year. Of course, folks from the Magellan Seas and all the various seafaring groups, not only the Black Powder Seas, etc., participate. So it's kind of a grid-wide celebration of the love of the high seas and inworlds.
I will definitely be looking forward to that, because I see Modi saying that it's probably going to be in September again this year, which I know is about the fall time when you guys do it. So obviously I know Rig will bombard me with all of his pictures, because that's what he does. And I'll have to go in and take some pictures myself, because that's just what I do.
Awesome.
Rig is like, Rig is like almost the official in-world photographer, because he runs around and he just takes pictures of everything. That I get like an email I get like 6 emails, and sometimes I get them daily. Sometimes I get them like every other day. Sometimes once a week. But he'll just take all these pictures, and I'll have all these pictures when I'm looking back. Going, okay, so Rig was on a photographic spree again. Okay.
Rig the
Yeah,
spammerazzi. I see.
He's okay. True story though. I do have to tell this, and Rig, do not be offended by this. I was having some issues with my Gmail because everything comes in for InWorlds through my Gmail, right? And I had reached my limit on Gmail. So I'm sitting here going,
quite an achievement.
It is. So I'm going through and I'm cleaning out some old crufty stuff, but I gotta keep like my PayPal receipts and, conversations with customers, I'm like, well, where's all this space going? I mean, obviously, it's been there for 9 years, right? Yeah, it's 15 gigs, Teal. Anyway, so I start looking through it, and Rig emails me that day. And I'm like, oh. So everything prior to June of last year that was Rig's, because I'd already posted it or done whatever I needed to do, it got downloaded, moved off to a USB, and then deleted. I had 14 gigabytes free again in my Gmail.
Yep, it's all those pictures. Yep. That's a lot. It
was Rig. It was all Rig. Yep.
Well, and all of us other fellow Gmail users, thank you kindly for that cleaning of the house.
Yes, right. And just so you guys now know, you have 15 gigabytes on Gmail in case you didn't know that before.
I think you were encroaching on others. That was a lot.
It was a massive amount. So, alrighty. So, okay. So we're going to sort of wrap up the show.
All right.
I'm doing it a little bit. I'm doing it a little bit early this time because I do have my eldest daughter down from San Antonio visiting. Yeah, exactly. So she's only here until the 20th, and then she goes back home. But just a couple of things. You guys heard what I had to say prior to the show, so thank you once again. That was absolutely awesome. We have some things that are kind of cooking on my little stovetop over here. Not food wise, mind you, because I know Rain will ask for pictures if I mention food. But more along the lines of we're working on a deal to bring some content into InWorlds, more along the lines of movies, TV shows, and some ABA live streaming basketball games, which is not obviously the NBA, it's the ABA, but live streaming them in. And we're going for a debut with the theater in 2 weeks. I'm getting some of the final details worked out on that. I built this InWorlds theater years ago when I started dealing with these guys, and some things had fallen through, and they finally got a hold of me and said, hey, we think we finally got the content and we think we're ready to go with this. So what do you want to do? And I was like, okay, well, this is really cool. So look forward. No, ABA, not NBA Modi. It'll be ABA. So it's the junior league, not junior, but it's the lower leagues than the NBA, but above the college leagues. I think that's how that works. Anyways, so we'll have some of that stuff coming in, and we'll be working on that. And so I really wanted to just sort of give you guys kind of a heads up, and I'll be announcing it. I got to pick which movie we're going to debut with, and what we're planning on doing is it'll be a Friday night showing. All day will be absolutely free, so anybody can come and watch the movie. We'll have set times, and then we'll run it like a theater after that. In order to a small charge for you to come in and actually watch the movie. We don't know what that's going to be. We've been bandying about some numbers and whatnot, but so this is something. Then also possibly we'll be licensing this out to some of our TV makers and whatnot as well. So there are things cooking. I know you guys think sometimes I'm not doing anything over here, but really I am. But I'll get you some more information about that stuff. Stephen, it was absolutely awesome to talk to you today. I've always been really curious about the Black Powder Seas. You answered so many questions. I think it's really cool. And like I say, if you guys decide to do a historical reenactment, that would be really fantastic. And I would love to be let in on it, which leads me to my other segue, which is anytime, which is guys, with 2018 being here and me doing my roadmap, which will be next episode, so you'll get a lot of feel for what I'm doing. If you guys are doing something really unique, something different, something that really makes a virtual world stand out, I really want to know about it, not just for iNewz, but for advertising purposes. I know that kind of sort of throws the whole thing about, for clothes makers and all that. But if you're doing like a really unique line of clothes, I want to know about that. If you're doing, things that just normally you just wouldn't see, or for a particular RP or something like that, we want to know about these things.
Like the buildings that take damage from ships and blow up.
Exactly. That's really, really cool stuff. We want to know, because here's where I'm sort of aiming for 2018. I want to let the people know that virtual worlds are not just about sex, that they're not just about going to a nightclub, that they're not just about buying clothes. There is so much more to a virtual world than what has been presented over the last 10, 15 years that you can do. There is so much more, and we want to show them that world. And you are the makers of that world. So we really, really want to know. So if you're doing something unique and creative that you think we need to know about, please let us know, because we would love to have you on the show, or do some advertising if you don't want to be on the show, because we know we have a lot of shy people around here that don't want to talk. But if you want us to come and take a look and do some video or do some shots, whatever, let me know, because I really, really want to share your stuff. And because InWorlds can do advertising, but InWorlds isn't what makes InWorlds.
Exactly.
We're just the formation. You guys are the heart of it. So what you guys do is what sells InWorlds. So let us know. That's what we want to hear about. So again, if you're doing something really creative and unique, let us know. Get a hold of me, Wolf, Bensky, whoever. Just let us know, and we'd be more than happy to come help you out. Also, and that includes groups and things like that too. If you guys have a particular group that you think could really do a lot of good for InWorlds, because you're doing creative stuff and artist stuff, etc., please let us know. We're more than happy to promote you and get you out there, and because it helps the InWorlds, it helps the grid as a whole. And so I wanted to toss that all out there for everybody. Any last words, Stephen, before we make you walk the plank?
I think I'm ready to take my bitter pill and walk off the edge, but I thank you again very, very much for the opportunity. And I hope I did a good job of representing everybody here. There's a lot of wonderful effort that goes into it. And I suppose as parting words, I would advise y'all to at least take a peek at what Melanie has going on at Port Celadon. Take a look at what's happening at the Loose Cannon Shipyard.
Is there a duty-free store? That's all I need to know.
I think there is, yes, absolutely. Free rum at the bar.
Wolf, let's go, Wolf.
Yes. And take a peek at what Trouble has going on there with the Batavia. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing to see as well. So if you spy out those three places in particular, you'll have a good idea of the three different flavors of what's going on with battles in the high seas. Yes.
A quick shout out to Teal. You rock, as always, other than my gagging of the parrot next to me, the ripping out of the vocal cords. This is a beautiful set. You have once again outdone yourself. Thank you so much for doing this. Other than the pirate carpet and the two chests, it does seriously remind me exactly of Colombia, and that's really fantastic. Awesome. But I get that whole tropical, that foggy, and I just love it. I can't wait to see what you do for the next time, because you just rock so much. Thank you.
She does. I'm biased.
Yes.
She does.
You're biased. You're really, it's just,
I'm allowed to be biased.
Well, in local chat banter, it's absolutely almost impossible not to bust out laughing.
I know.
Right? We have all the time.
That trouble every show. Yes.
Oh, help me.
Every show is like that. Every show. So, okay, everybody, thank you so much for your participation. Stephen, thank you for being on the show. Wolf, thank you as always for being my absolutely awesome co-host.
My pleasure.
And I don't know if everybody got the notice, but Wolf has some issues with his marketplace. So I think I'm going to let Wolf close out the show with that announcement, because I think he probably wants to let everybody know about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if everybody will have seen the notices or whatever. I've been working on a new version of the marketplace, but things have changed around, and we've been getting some issues with communications with servers. So I'm actually moving the whole thing to a completely different hosting company, changing databases and a whole load of technical stuff. So in order to do that without still trying to support all the problems that we've got with the existing service, I've closed the marketplace and the associated services down until the end of the month, which gives me time to get everything moved. as I say, without things getting screwed up again in the meantime. So apologies for the fact that it's not going to be around. I'm trying to get everything like the TP to me system and priorities like that up as fast as I can. But along with the marketplace is coming the directory, which I've mentioned a couple of times. And it's quite relevant to what Ellie just said. A large part of that is not for listing stores and where you can buy things, although that will be part of it. It's about the groups that exist, role-playing groups and all kinds of other groups. It's also about places to visit and that kind of thing. We are, as a group of people, we are really, really keen to get these things showcased. So that's been delayed a bit because of the technical stuff, but that will be there by the end of January as well. And I want everybody to put their stuff on there, what you make, whether it's a region, what you do in terms of groups and role play. I just want that to be out there for everybody in world and for everybody outside to see what we do. So that's a big part of it. Okay, that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you once again, everybody, for coming to the show. And make sure you tell everybody that we'll have it up. Probably it takes about a week. By the time Bensky's done with it and he gets it to me now, it goes up onto YouTube, but the closed captioning doesn't go up for another day or two after that. And we really like the closed captioning because they seem to do a really good job with it. So a few days it'll be up, and we'll get that out there so everybody can see what's going on. And don't forget that next month is our roadmap, which I am studiously working on furiously as much as I can.
Excellent.
And yeah, so in the meantime, everybody take care, be safe, be happy. And again, thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
See you. Take care.